Welcome back to Worldview. Michel van Elzen's research focuses on a broad range of topics in international climate policy, including mitigation action and its costs, the Kyoto mechanisms, the design of climate agreements, reduction proposals in the international negotiations, and long-term mitigation scenarios. He's a member of the EU delegation from 2011 to 2012, and as a policy advisor, he provides analytical support to the delegation and the European Commission for the UNFCCC climate negotiations on these topics. He's project leader of development and application of global economy-wide climate change modeling. Now that's a mouthful, but it's very important from a policy standpoint. And he was a member of the Dutch delegation of climate negotiators from 2008 to 2010 and of the EU delegation in 2011 and 2012. Michel van Elzen, welcome to Worldview.
Yes, welcome.
Now, together with colleagues, you examine new information on likely future emissions trajectories in developing countries. And this included recent clarifications of assumptions and conditions relating to those developing country pledges. And as a result, your recent report found that developed countries must reduce their emissions by 50% below the 1990 levels by 2020 if we're going to have a medium chance, that's just a medium chance, of limiting warming to 2 degrees Celsius and prevent some of climate change's worst impacts. And the IPCC's fourth assessment report said that developed countries would have to reduce emissions by 25 to 40%. It sounds like we have a very big problem here. How bad is it?
The problem is on both sides. It's about what developing countries have proposed, what they are going to do, and what we see if you have analyzed all these proposals, and what they are doing right now is around 9 to 12% below business as usual emissions, so without climate policy. That's most likely what they achieve, and that's about 50% above 2010 levels. So if they are doing what they have proposed, then in order to keep the 2 degree into reach, the developed countries would have to do 50% below 1990 levels. But of course, this is only one part of the story. You could also turn it around if the developed countries do what they are supposed to do right now, and that leads to around 12 to 80% below 1990 levels, then the developing countries have to do more. Then they have to do around 30%. So it's a story of who is just keeping the 2 degree into reach, and at the end, both the developed and the developed countries have to do more in order to reach 2 degrees.
And of course, the developing world would say, well, wait a minute, you have all the benefits of power generation, petrol usage, etc. Why should we cut back? And the developed countries would say, look, we worked very hard to get to where we are. How much support do you get from the government there? And what forces are out there that are trying to stymie this type of research?
We do this as independent research institute. We are linked to the Dutch government. We are advising the Dutch government and also the European Commission. But this is just our advice. We don't take decisions here. It's just a recommendation for policy action. And well, in general, we act as an independent research institute. So we don't have a position in the debate. So we work for the IPCC. That's one of our tasks as well. But there are no forces that just puts us in the other direction, so to say.
Now, how is it that the Dutch have taken such a leadership role on this issue?
I'm not sure whether the Dutch have. We do within the Netherlands quite a lot of climate policy-oriented research, and I think that has a long history already with the start of our first climate models. But somewhat. There's a kind of a history here, and I think there are also other countries in Europe that also take leadership, like Germany and the UK. But we are just a couple of countries that do show leadership in the.
But for you, it's a matter of life and death. A dramatic rise in sea level could, essentially mean the end of the Netherlands as we know it, because so much of that country is underground and dependent on water control. Yeah,
well. Of course, that also makes us much more interested in the climate problem. Of course, we can also benefit from it due to adaptation and so on. It's not the end of the Netherlands, so to say. But there's a lot of interest in this climate-related issue, and maybe that has related to where we stand in the Netherlands.
Let's go back from a policy standpoint for a second. How do these targets that you've laid out impact when, for example, we hear governments around the world talking about drilling and exploring in places like the Arctic? You hear countries on a shale gas rush. There's more talk of coal exploration and exploitation, which all would seem to run counter to these targets. How do these impact your numbers and where you're trying to go?
Yeah, well, that's what we see right now, that there's still an increasing trend in the emissions going up. Also, if you look at the business as usual emission projections, so what happens without climate policy, then we also see that these projections has grown up because of, for example, shale gas, but also for other reasons, high economic growth. So these projections do influence, of course, also our work, and it becomes more and more difficult at the end to reach the 2 degree. It's also a matter of timing. Every year we wait for taking policy action. It becomes more and more expensive to do this action at the end to reach 2 degree.
And yet you see technologies such as solar and wind. I mean, I read a report last week that solar was about to become sustainable without any sort of subsidy by 2014 in places like India and other parts of the world where it's being installed, pretty much everywhere. You've got countries such as yourself and Germany and some of the Scandinavian countries making huge investments in solar. Yet when it comes to some of the biggest consumers, it feels almost as if solar and wind have been neglected, and we seem to be pumping more out of the ground than ever, these carbon-related fuels, and the prices continue to rise. Why do you think these are not covered as much in the media as they should be?
Well, I'm not, of course, involved in the media. I do see that there's a lot of investment also in solar and wind, particularly if you look in China. But yeah, in general, we must change the society towards a low carbon society, and we have to do that fast. And yes, I think we should not wait too much longer, as indeed you already indicated that it is competitive, these low carbon technologies already right now, and it should be supported by the media more and more.
So you mentioned business as usual. What is the global outlook if there is no change? What sort of temperature rises are we talking, and why is the year 2020 so important other than just a milestone? What are the consequences here of inaction?
If there is no climate action, then there's a degree. Then we may lead to temperatures in the order of 3 to 4 degrees Celsius, depending, of course, on what we're doing after 2020. Why 2020 is so important? Well, all these reduction proposals countries are currently making are related to 2020. This is the far it goes right now. And why is it important? Well, if we are not that ambitious enough, then of course the emissions are much higher in 2020. And then what we see, well, in the short term we see lower mitigation cost for abatement, but on the long term we see much higher cost for abatement, because you need deeper and faster reductions in order to still keep the 2 degree. And the 2 degree is, that's been agreed by the parties that this is a climate goal that we need to reach. So in order to keep the 2 degree within limits, within reach, it's important to not to delay too much, because otherwise we see much higher costs. It also leads to higher climate impacts, and you also see a much more reliance on low, on particular the option of bioenergy and carbon capture and storage, which creates negative emissions, but you need it on a very large scale. And well, there's a big risk, of course, that at the end, because it's still a non-proven technology, that it is not that good as we thought it would be, and that at the end we do not reach it to do.
With all the weather we've seen in the last year or so, is it likely that by 2020 we're too late?
Well, I'm not sure whether it's too late. It still might be possible at the long term to meet 2 degrees, but there's a good chance that we should face in a world with a kind of an overshoot an overshoot of 2 degrees Celsius. Yeah. And it also leads to higher climate impacts.
Well, it's a very important issue, and I'm glad you're on our side, at least doing the heavy lifting and working and doing the searching out there. Thank you for joining us here on Worldview.
Thank you very much.
We've been speaking with Michel den Elzen of the Netherlands Environmental Assessment Agency. Now, you can find his team's paper analyzing the greenhouse gas emission reductions of the mitigation action plans by non-Annex 1 countries by 2020 online at sciencedirect.com. We'll be back after this with part 2 of our report from John Jackson in Hong Kong on the ways the internet is changing to watch you even more closely than it currently does. John this week is going to give you practical tips on remaining anonymous on the web. You're watching Worldview with Denis Campbell.